Director of Public Relations.
There is no middle ground in today's housing market.
We started seeing a climb.
Sales of existing homes rose sharply.
So the homes that have been selling are at a higher price.
Let's begin.
All right, in 3, 2, 1.
It's time to cut through the clutter.
Refinancing your home loan.
This is your source for the latest real estate and home financing news. You can actually use.
My prediction is that most predictions will be wrong.
It's the Market Snapshot.
Going live.
And now, here's your host, Dan French.
And welcome to the Market Snapshot. This is Dan French from Nova Home Loans. I am your go-to mortgage specialist here in Las Vegas. As always, on Saturday from 1 to 2 p.m., our new time, right here on KDWN.com. You can go there and you can download our app. You can also go to our website, danfrenchloans.com. You can also go download the podcast, the Market Snapshot, iTunes podcast. And today we have a great show. I'm in studio today with Chakits ITZ Krulsawat from Simply Vegas. He's here, and you're in kind of a little bit of an emotional mood today. What's going on with you today?
You mean in a pissed off mood?
What are you pissed off about?
Nothing.
Oh. You seem like you're all upset, and, life is not on your side today.
Is it?
I don't know. Is it? Are you good?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm great.
Also in studio today, we have a special guest, Jesse Lucero. He is from Base Blast. He does all of my marketing. He's my guy. He's my go-to person as far as doing things online, social media. And Jesse, introduce yourself to the audience.
Hello, everybody. This is Jesse, and today we're promoting Dan French and the Market Snapshot live. We're on Twitter, guys, so check us out. Go on Twitter, ask your questions, hashtag the Market Snapshot. We're ready here for you to answer anything you have.
Excellent. And Jesse's going to be here now from here on out. If you guys have a question regarding anything you hear on the show, you can always either tweet us or you can maybe get a hold of us through Facebook or something. If you want to ask a question, Jesse's there to answer those questions, and we'll bring it up on the show.
Live.
And we've been here for a year and a half, and we've been doing this show, I think it's been about a year and a half, and I think we're doing very well as far as getting the audience understanding really what's going out there in the market through financing, through real estate, and really it's all because we want to help you as a consumer. This show's put in place for you as a consumer to really make an educated decision. It's if you're out there thinking about, should I finance? Should I go out and purchase a home? Is the right time to buy a home now? Well, this might help you make that decision. Right, Chuck?
That's right.
So let's go back this week. The stock market continues to rise after Trump became president. Rates are at the highest in 3 years. So let's look at one thing here. Consumer Price Index. We had the core Consumer Price Index, which is Consumer Price Index minus energy and food prices. Now, this is a great way to measure inflation. Why? Well, because what they say is because food and energy can be very volatile to predict, which is stated that these sectors can have temporary price shocks and give false measurements. The Fed estimated on the Consumer Price Index, it came in at 1.64%. And the actual number, that was what they estimated, was 1.46% from the previous month. And the core CPI is up 2.2% year over year. If you look at the average rents, now let's talk about this, okay? Rents consistently go up, really on average 3%. We've talked about this numerous times on the show. Another factor to rent, let's look at the inflation off of the core CPI versus your rent payment. If you have $1,000, let's say this is a good estimation, a month that you pay in rent, it would increase since the beginning of this year $22. And let's look at the purchasing power that you have for inflation since 2010. If you had $100 in 2010, then you would need $110.86 to buy the same goods and services today. That's almost an 11% increase. Now, does it seem like it's drastic? No. But if you see this consistently happening, and let's say it does start to increase even more, this potentially could be a really big impact on you, especially for your monthly expenditures.
So basically, rent's gone up about $25, but you're not including the dollar losing its value. So basically, your purchasing power is pretty much depleting.
Yeah, and let's take a look at something else. If you're a person out there since 2010 that's been averaging or making $3,000 a month and it's continued the same for the last 6 years, you have lost $330 of income since then because of the inflation that's going on right now.
And the average rent right now is at $1,350. And at $1,350, if you actually got into a mortgage now, remember, you still got those tax write-offs as well.
Absolutely.
So you're chasing that inflation. You're actually ahead of the game.
We're going to talk about hedging it. So money is being devalued, and holding this in your bank doesn't help you. Because if inflation's going up, the money that's storing in your bank right now is devaluing. And when you look at it, is this a good thing to do as far as looking at this inflation and doing something about it? Absolutely. Because a lot of people hedge their money against things like maybe getting a tangible asset like buying a home.
Correct.
Maybe that money will work for you because you're getting some type of residual income from that.
Mm-hmm.
Or you start a business. You know, if you start a business and you're making money, well, that's a good way to hedge inflation. If you're not doing anything to help yourself with this inflation problem, you're losing money every day.
Every day.
So let's go back to rates. The markets are up saying 95% probability that they're going to raise interest rates. So I'm going to tell everybody out there right now, any significant raise in interest rates will crush this bubble that we are. And this bubble is a bond bubble. Okay? This is a long-term bond bubble. If this goes away, we crash. This thing's going to crash for that reason. We are now back at 4% on the 30-year fixed loan. Again, this is really increasing after the election. Stock market's flying right now. Rates could be back at 5% by the end of the year. Isn't that crazy?
That's crazy. What did we hit? About almost 1,900 on the Dow?
Yeah, 1,900. And here's the thing. Is it still lower than historic lows? Absolutely.
Yes.
Okay, we're going to talk about should you refinance. I think everybody out there is like, okay, it's not going to happen. Refinances are just something I'm pushing down the road. But if rates go to 5%, appreciation keeps continuing. Home prices now are so high and rates are so high that is the average consumer, and we talk about this consistently, going to be able to buy a home here in Las Vegas.
Now you're chasing the market.
You're chasing the market. My opinion is if this does crash, rates do go to 5%, houses keep appreciating, we are going to be in a serious problem because nobody out there is going to be willing to buy a home, especially since we have been, I'm going to say that we've been a little bit, it's been generous, obviously, the last 3 years, but we've been spoiled. We've been spoiled because rates have not gone up. If I said rates haven't gone up in 3 years, that's spoiled. It's just a spoiled situation. People now are going to think, well, just like when the house prices started going up.
Yeah.
Why am I going to go buy a home?
Correct.
Why am I going to go buy a home now if rates go up too as well? Where's the incentive? Now, there's a lot of things out there that could potentially help you. If you're going to pay rents anyways, you got to look at that factor. But again, it's going to push people on the sidelines, and I think really what's going on, and you see it in the markets now. Now, I still see the same business out there for myself and my team, but I know that it's slowing down, and I know that people are starting to slow down for the holidays. I understand there's a new president that's in place right now, so everybody's kind of sitting on the sidelines for that. But these things are very important. They're very important to pay attention to because it affects everybody out there. Even if you're not in the market to buy a home, these things we're talking about affect you on a daily basis. Thank you for tuning in. What do you got over here, Chuck? You got any good news for me?
Well, talking about the housing market, I want to jump into this really quickly. We've actually increased by 0.7% from the previous months from 0.5% from the housing index. So, I mean, the economy is still doing good as far as the housing sector. You know, throughout the nation, we are definitely selling a lot of homes. But one of the things that I've noticed throughout the U.S., as far as for percentage of homes that actually have equity, right? Nevada, 61% of our economy right now here in Las Vegas actually has some equity in their home.
That's a big thing. And let me say something about equity. That's a good thing, right? But let me say this. Let's say if house prices go up and then say nobody's buying their homes and let's say the value goes down.
Mm-hmm.
Would it be the people that are buying now that are at the peak, okay? It's not a bad time, but it could potentially become bad. If they're buying at the peak and the values start to go down and now they're underwater at some point,
yes,
Are we going to start to see what happened where people are walking away from their homes again?
No, and the reason why is because you're going to be still buying at a low interest rate. You can make that monthly payment of $900 or $1,000 a month.
But then technically you're just renting. Because
you'll be renting anyway.
Yeah, but if you're at 5%, right, and your rate's at 5%, yes, it's still low, and I understand that.
Yes.
I'm not saying don't go out there and buy, but this is something you got to take notice. If values start to drop, rates keep continuing to go up, at some point you're renting again. And it's not saying that that's where we're at, but it's something to consider. Is it a good time to buy at this point? Yes. Is money cheap? Yes. Is rates still historically low? Absolutely. But you have to pay attention to these things.
Well, let's take a look at this. If you lock in today at 4.5% on a $200,000 deal, right? I'm going to change it up. I'm going to do it based upon my loan at 3.2% at $175. My payments right now is only $930 a month. If the economy drops by 50%, let's just say at 50%, but you have to understand, if it drops, what happens to the interest rates?
Well,
interest rates has to rise. We have to start all over.
Here's the thing, though, but you got to understand something, is that everybody looks at a home, buying a home as an asset. It's something that they...
Well, you shouldn't be buying a home because you're looking at it as an asset.
But that's what people look at it for. And let me tell you something. The average person out there that doesn't have the funds or doesn't have the money to diversify what their money is going into, stocks, tangible assets like, I don't know, commodities and things like that. If they don't have that, then they're just going to look at a home. Most people, they have families. They have to have a place for their home and their family to live in. That's where their money's going anyways, okay? So, yes, for the average person, if that's all I have, which most people do, is all they have is the biggest asset they purchase in their life is a home, you have to pay attention to that.
Well, I think what's different from, the last bubble bust was the adjusted rates. And that's where we kind of fell off. But if we're still sitting at 3.54%, it doesn't matter if it drops
I don't
off
think it's
because
just
you're
that.
going to be sitting in your home for a while anyway.
I think that's a considering factor, but there was other factors. Let's look at banks just flooding the market, right? If you have more demand or more supply than demand, then obviously the values are going to drop for that, right? Also, you have to look at what happened with people in the subprime and all the programs that were out there. It wasn't just adjustable mortgages. How about in the just general, people were just not even looking at income. They were going through stated. That's not going to happen again. Okay, that's not going to be a market where I don't think that's going to get to that point.
Well, it's not going to happen again. But what I'm saying is once rates are low, we're just going to become a nation of renters. And it's going to be low enough where we're just going to continue renting. But obviously, we're going to be underwater. That's the direction that we are going to be heading.
Yeah, but how much money can they keep printing to keep rates low, Chuck? Because at some point, it's just going to exceed. One of the things is if you have your debt moving faster than your gross domestic product, which we do, it's inevitable. At some point, it's going to fall.
Well, here's the thing. We're teeter-tottering back and forth.
Let's look at another thing real quick. Fed funds rate, which is supposed to come in December, could potentially be raised, right? Mm-hmm. So why is this important? Well, if the Fed fund rate increases for banks will loan money out to you at a higher rate. Now, if credit tightens and economic growth slows, company must lower their prices to stay in business. This reduces inflation. I don't see that happening. I don't see that going that direction. I do think that it's kind of stagnant, but if they do raise rates, we could be in a problem.
Well, nobody's going to be buying the bonds.
Absolutely.
And if nobody's buying the bonds, what happens?
So why is rates going so high right now? Because the bond price is really dropping. And they're trying to entice people like, hey, come buy my bond. Come buy these mortgage bonds. Nobody's buying them. So they have to entice them because they're looking at it like, look, the bond is dropping while rates are increasing.
So that tells me other economies and other countries are not buying our bonds because they're starting to see what's happening to the U.S. dollar, and they may not want to buy the bonds.
Listen, this is all important stuff. I mean, everybody out there, I understand, it sounds very worrisome, but we're not here to put some worry out there. I mean, the economy in Las Vegas here is doing very well. As a consumer, you should be very happy. There's low unemployment. You have a lot of things going on. But let me tell you something. When you look at these things long term, everybody should be planning for the future, planning for next year, planning for what could happen. These things could potentially affect you. And if you don't know these things, it's good to know these things going forward because now you know how to strategically plan your situation for you and your family, really. So let's go right into the market rundown. Are you ready for this, Chuck?
Let's do this.
So, honey, what are you going to rant about today? Can we get a little preview?
It's the Market Rundown.
So news and events. Chuck's going to start with that. I'm going to talk about housing market statistics and interest rate trending today. India has panic over the rupee. We're going to talk about that. Is it time to refinance even though rates are at 4%, continuing to climb? Hey, everybody out there, there's a cash out refinance still there, and we're going to talk about that. Also, I want to talk about buyers waiting on the sidelines post-election to buy a home. I mean, I understand everybody's kind of concerned about what's going on, but at the same time, you got to put all these things in place and then make a good decision, really, or an educated decision for yourself. Does it mean that you have to wait on the sidelines because everybody else is doing it? No, we're going to talk about that. So let's go right into it. You got any news and events, Chuck?
Let's talk about Amazon. They actually got a abatement to actually bring their company out there. Apparently, they're going to be employing about 1,000 new jobs out here. But one of the things that's very interesting
Amazon, huh?
Amazon.
Wow.
One of the most interesting things that I found out here is Governor Brian Sandoval on Thursday questioned Amazon. The average hourly wages for them is actually $14.64, but to actually get that abatement has to be at $21.35.
Wow.
But here's the thing. You remember how we always talk about North Las Vegas? You know, during 2006, they almost folded, right?
Absolutely.
But here's the thing. There's a lot of companies that they're actually bringing out there, and there's a lot of growth that's taking place.
You know, and there's a stigma out there like North Las Vegas doesn't have growth. Listen, I brought it up too, but I could tell you that North Las Vegas is thriving in some ways, and I'm going to tell you, we could talk about it, but I think it's a good place to start looking. A lot of people are like, Henderson, Green Valley, you know, Summerlin. Listen, look at North Las Vegas.
I mean, we got
now.
into a contract on a new home for about $234,000, 2 bedrooms, 2,200 square feet, a brand new home in North Las Vegas.
Yeah,
that's a great deal.
That is a great deal. You can't overlook these things just because you think people out there say, oh, it's this and there's crime. You know what?
There's crime all over the place.
There is. You know, let me say something about that too.
Yeah,
you got a lot of people that go from those bad areas
to the good areas where you got money.
Good areas to try to get something from those people in the good areas.
Yeah.
So you're
think about it. It's common sense.
You're not going to get away from it. You just got to get a gated community up, right?
That's right. I got one more. Hey, remember that casino, the Lucky Dragon, that was actually getting built?
Yeah.
And I think they were about to fold, and they went back to the.
What do they serve at the Lucky Dragon?
Well, I don't know.
Come on, Chuck. You know all the details. Anything with Lucky Dragon in it.
Duck soup.
You're Asian.
Duck soup, egg rolls. I don't know. But that new casino, I think what happened was they were going to file for bankruptcy, and next thing you know, we actually bailed them out. I think it was like $52 million, but I think they're going to be opening up shortly. But one of the articles that I seen here that was very fascinating to me, there was actually a piece of property right next door to it, and it was actually at 728 square feet home.
Wow.
And it's actually on the market for $7 million. Wow. And it's actually in Naked City. And the square footage.
Naked City?
In Naked City.
What's that?
Well, Naked City is actually in between Sahara and all the way down to Charleston.
Naked City.
So we call that Naked City because remember, you have Las Vegas and you have downtown Las Vegas, and eventually they're trying to connect it together, and that's what we call Naked City. But the very interesting
part that slogan.
At $7 million, and this lot size is only less than about 8,000 square feet. But they think they can actually get this. But here's the thing. This deal will never pencil out because would you literally buy a piece of dirt for $7 million and only 7,000 square feet? How much of a return or what could you actually build under to actually get your money back?
A new casino.
On a 7,000 square feet lot?
Hey, they'll just build it like they'll build it all the way up like the Empire State Building.
Man, I'm out of this studio.
All right, let's go over Steel Magnolias. I thought about this movie. This was a movie at one point, right? I thought. And then I'm sitting here looking at it. It's like they're performing at Smith Center.
Is it like a musical?
It's a country band.
Oh.
So I had to bring this up because all our country people out there, they need some love too, you know?
Jesse, you a country guy?
I used to be, man.
Yeah?
Oh,
you
I used to be, yeah.
Let me tell you something. I remember meeting people that were like, man, this guy looks like a tough dude. He works out. He's big. He's, you know, all these guys that kind of look, met quite a few people. A lot of them listen to country.
Yeah.
You know, it's very mellow. I think it just mellows them out or something. I don't know. It's like that music. But yeah, they're performing today and tomorrow. So you might want to check that out if you're a country buff. Also, Pennywise. I was listening to Pennywise when I was a kid. Be over at the House of Blues. You know Pennywise, right?
No, I don't.
You don't know what Pennywise is?
No, I don't.
It's a punk band. You don't know who they are? Oh, okay. Well, they're a pretty big band. I mean,
Is this back in the motocross days?
Well, of course.
Oh, gotcha.
Back in the motocross, the mountain biking, downhill things that I was doing.
Gotcha.
And it just really kind of reflected on my life. I was going through an epiphany at that point. Epiphany.
Gotcha. So now you're going through a midlife crisis.
Now I'm in a midlife crisis going, what happened? Like,
what happened to my hair?
Jay Leno will be performing at the Mirage. That guy's here seems like every
other week.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, and then he's got these car things going on. He's got a car show.
I never found him
TV.
funny at all.
Oh, you know what? He's kind of got that it sneaks up on you humor. Like,
really?
Yeah, it's kind of like one of those things where he's waiting for you to laugh. You know what I mean? It's like, I got you. Okay, laugh. You know, and then you laugh. I mean, some stuff's pretty funny.
Oh, is that when the applause lights come on?
Yeah, exactly.
Gotcha.
That's what happens. But anyways, he's got like a car thing. He's going on here at the Mirage. Randy Couture Operation Knockout event going on today. All proceeds going to awareness for wounded veterans. So we just had Veterans Day recently, and so I think he's still promoting that. That's a good thing. You know, you got, obviously, I watch that a lot.
And I think he's a veteran too, isn't he?
I don't know. Honestly, I don't know.
Is he? Yeah.
He looks like a veteran. I mean, you can't be Captain America and not be a veteran, right?
Oh, that's true. You can't have that title.
Oh, that's great. So let's talk about the rupee. India, right? So
the rupees.
Rubies or rupee?
Yeah.
It's rupee.
Ruby.
It's rupee.
Rupee?
Rupee, not rubies.
Rubies?
Rupee. Yes, rupee.
I gotcha.
So the rupees, people are taking away the $500 rupee and the $100 rupee, right?
No, it's and 1,000. I'm sorry.
So explain a little bit to the audience what's going on with that.
So
Chuck.
basically what's going on with their economy, about 80% of the transactions is with dollars. And what happens is, you know, the government needs to tax these people, but you have these small little businesses where they're just doing exchange, and they can't tax these small businesses. So what they're going to do is take away the $500 and also the $1,000. So what happens before December 31st, you got to turn in all that money in and exchange it. Now, here's the thing.
Huge.
Yeah.
After a certain dollar amount, I think it's what, 240?
So do you think something like that would ever come to our soil?
I don't think so. And the reason why is because everybody has to pay taxes. You have to understand that this is a third world country. And when they do, like, you know, street vendings and stuff like that, they do all exchange. Without paying taxes.
Look at this.
They got to tax people somehow. And that's what they're changing to. And I think what they're going to start rolling it over to is a credit system.
Here's the big thing that really brought my attention to this.
Yeah.
Banks were closed on Wednesday and reopened on Thursday morning. ATMs remained closed, so currency was only available from the banks. Newspapers around the country reported really long lines at branches, and people were scrambling to exchange their high-value banknotes for $100 rupee notes or bills.
Yeah.
So my thing is this: why are some of these countries you hear about? We just heard that Citibank in Australia is now going digital, right? They're just going to be digital. There's no currency that's in paper form. Is this something that's going to happen for the future?
I think the IMF has been actually working on this for some time.
So is there a big thing where now banks, now that they have that control, I mean, we know that banks are in this to make money, ladies and gentlemen. Don't worry about anything out there as far as thinking that banks are on your side, because yes, it's great to store your money, but they're making that monthly that monthly bill, what is like $3 or something just to store your money from every person out there. If you got some type of late or some type of overdraft fee that's $35.
Yeah, they're charging you for everything.
Everything. You deposit money that's over a certain amount, $7,000, they're charging you interest off that, right?
You're absolutely right.
So all these things that's going on, is it still going to be safe to have your currency sitting in digital format? I don't know. What do you think?
I mean, I think you're absolutely right, because here's the thing. If the economy does tank, I don't want it to tank, but if it does, you have to understand, where are they going to get the money? They're probably going to get it from the derivatives market. I actually read this article about California. They're actually underwater. Obviously, you know, California owes so much money to the federal government. But here's the thing. The city workers that actually have pension plans, do you know what they're doing now?
What?
They're actually taking money from their pension plans to pay the federal government.
Wow.
That's crazy. So if you have $800,000, by the time you retire, you're not going to have that money anymore. So now in the derivatives
that's
market,
something to look at.
Exactly. So that's already working on California.
Wow.
So imagine this. That could actually take place throughout the whole nation.
Pay attention to that. That's important. Also, let's talk about Hawaii, right? Hawaiian housing shortage. Says that Hawaiian housing experts are warning that their state will need between 65,000 to 80,000 new units by 2025 in order to keep up with the current demand for new housing. Is that going on? I mean, you're from Hawaii. Do you see that?
I mean, you're absolutely right. Just for a studio apartment that's 500 square feet is about $1,400.
That's the rent?
That's just the rent.
Wow. What about to buy it? I mean,
to buy, if we take a look at the average, you're sitting about in Hawaii.
But Hawaii's hot, though. You know what I mean? Hawaii's got a lot to offer. So, I mean, yeah, these are going to be more expensive. It's like being on the beach.
I guess so.
So, we'll be right back. We got a whole lot of show left. We're going to talk about should you be staying on the sidelines on purchasing right now with about 2 months left here in the 2016? We're also going to talk about the interest rate trending. We're going to talk to Chuck about the housing market. We will be right back.
Get the latest financing and real estate news anytime you like. Just log on to danfrenchloans.com.
Oh, sure, I can do that.
Don't you dare go away. More with Dan and Company coming right up here on the Market Snapshot. You provide the radio, they'll provide the content.
No problem.
It's the Market Snapshot on News Talk 720 KDWN.
Hey, welcome back. It's Dan French from Nova Home Loans, your go-to mortgage specialist here in Las Vegas. In studio, as always, I got Chakits ITZ Krulsawat. He is from Simply Vegas, giving us the market rundown and the market update for the housing. What's going on today, Chakits?
I'm feeling a little bit down today, but you know what? The show must go on.
You aren't feeling down. You were pretty animated over here. Also, we got Jesse Lucero. He's our special guest. He's going to be coming on. If you guys have any questions out there through Twitter, through Facebook, give us a question. We'll answer it on the show. He's there. He's sitting on the sidelines here. Jesse, kind of give us an insight what you've been getting back here on Facebook. You got any good things going on, or you got some questions?
Let's make this a little more engaging, guys. You're probably driving or you're on your phone listening to the radio. Go on Twitter and just hashtag Ask Dan French, or you could also go hashtag the Market Snapshot and just give us your questions. We're here live. We'll be happy to answer them live on the radio today.
That's Jesse Lucero. Also, we're going to talk here a little bit. We got to go back into a few things. I want to let you guys know you can also reach us on KDWN.com. You can also go and find us on danfrenchloans.com. That's LOANS.com. You can also go to our podcast. We have a lot of subscribers to our iTunes podcast, The Market Snapshot. And again, we're here every Saturday, from 1 to 2 p.m. And, we're loving Saturdays. I really like Saturdays. How you feeling about Saturdays, Chuck?
I love it. Better than Sundays.
Sundays were good, but Saturdays I think are better. I know that everybody on Sundays typically has things going on. It's a little bit tougher. Hopefully you guys can get us, and there's really no way you can't get a hold of us, right? So if you got any questions, get a hold of us through Twitter. Let's go back into talking about some of the things we were speaking about. Hawaii not having enough homes. They're still building homes. We got a lot of people from Hawaii that live here, right? And they
call
here.
this the 7th Island.
7th? I thought it was the 9th.
Oh, yeah, the 9th.
You're from Hawaii. You don't know how many islands? Oh, my gosh. Chuck, that's a new one.
Hey,
there's 8 islands.
Here's the thing. I lived out here too long. It's been 16 years.
Are you trying to disown that you lived in Hawaii?
No.
Because you just insulted all Hawaiians out here.
Bro, don't even make it like it's like that, bro.
I just playing.
I'm going to get beat up.
I just playing. All right, let's go back into the Department of Justice lawsuit against Quicken Loans. Quicken Loans is in a lawsuit.
A lawsuit?
Yeah.
CFPP? Lawsuit?
No. So the Department of Justice is one that's head of providing, basically going after people for really putting them against the wall, if you want to call it, to find them or find out if they did something wrong. And there's accuses the District of Justice, the Department of Justice lawsuit accuses sued Quicken Loans of committing fraud on loans insured by Federal Housing Association and sought to try the case in the District of Columbia. So one of the things that they were doing is basically stating that they were committing fraud on some of the things that they were doing with loans. Now they're a big entity, right? They're a big corporation. So for them as a name or has their name go out there to say that they're getting either sued or they committed fraud for some reason, that's big. And that's a big thing.
Let's look at this. How much are they actually getting sued for?
I mean, I don't know that amount.
And is this enough to actually make an impact on the company?
Well, let's say this. If you have the Department of Justice coming after you, you did something wrong. Like you've done enough where they're like, hey, we're going to make some type of change or we're going to have to correct something that you guys were doing.
Yeah.
You got to understand that people out there, it's so big, you can't govern or control everything when you get that big. That's why I say it's not always the best to go with the biggest corporation or company. You know, if something does happen, That's on a grand scale usually. You know, it's something. Yeah, it's big.
Well, that's why you have to do your own homework. You got to screen all your own lenders, and you got to get that gut feel if that's actually the right lender too as well.
Everybody's a competitor. Talk like that's a competitor to mine, right?
Yeah.
So I'm not here to throw anybody under the bus, but I'm just telling you that it's hard to govern all that. And I can tell you that when you have your name out there, nobody wants their name out there negative. I talked about reputation.
Yeah.
You know, with my clients, hopefully I have a great reputation. I try to provide that service. We're going to talk about that. But the thing is that when you have that aura out there and you get that name where you have a good aura or good reputation, you want to keep it. Now, in this situation, when you put that press out there with your name saying that the Department of Justice is coming after you, that's a problem.
Well, it sounds like you are rolling right over them and reversing and going back forward.
Exactly. So, I mean, the thing is this, you know, it's something to pay attention to. If you're out there thinking that online financing is the way to go because you got the Rocket Mortgage and all this stuff, hey, you might want to do your research.
Yeah.
You know, you might want to have a lender that's in the state that you're buying the home at so you can go down and talk to your lender because something doesn't look right on your loan estimate.
How often do you actually physically meet up with your clients? Every single file?
I'm going to tell you why.
Yeah.
I might not always meet them up front where they do an application. A lot of people, it's such a...
They got to work and all that stuff. They got to live their life.
Yeah, it's just a busy life, and people love convenience. They love it. And let me tell you something. When they're like, let me give you the option. Do you want to go online, or do you want to do it with me on the phone, or you want to come and meet with me?
Yeah.
I'm going to say half is doing it online.
Really?
But I'll tell you, I want people to come in and meet with me because that's where we establish the rapport. Plus, I'm going to find out and see if there's any paperwork right, that is needed, or ask you for anything that's needed on that specific situation with that file. So, yes, it's important. I meet everybody. Does everybody online meet everybody? No. That's why it's important to do your research.
Didn't you get a client from the radio, and once he met up with you, he was kind of starstruck?
No, he wasn't starstruck. No, it wasn't. Not at all. I mean, I think I'm a very down-to-earth person. I mean, you can go and have a beer with me, and I'll just talk about everything under the stars. So I don't know. I mean, I guess some people look at it like, hey, how's your radio show? How you know, whatever. Yeah. But for me, it's not like that. For me, I just want to shake your hand and work with you and earn your business and talk about, you know, I don't know. I talk a lot about everything. So sports, I can talk about politics, financing, whatever you want to talk to me about. Let's talk. So, but anyways, let's keep moving on. So we talk about refinances. Now, rates are heading right now 4%. Could they go to 5%? Absolutely. I think it could happen. Matter of fact, it might happen by the end of this year.
Well, let me ask you this. What was your last interest rate on an FHA you locked in, and also on a conventional?
Prior to election?
No, your last lock.
Okay,
what was your last lock?
My last lock is 3.75 on an FHA loan.
Conventional investment.
4% to 4.125%.
Man, that's still good.
Half to 3/8 of a point higher. No, it's still good. Now, if this news keeps going forward and they keep doing the things that they're doing, the bond somehow keeps, I don't know if it busts, or let's say the stock market keeps going higher. And let me tell you something. There is a potential that this could go to 5%.
Yeah.
Now, is it going to scare everybody off? Yeah, I think so at the beginning of it. But you still have to look at the overall picture. You have rates that are still historic lows. You still have properties that are out there. You still have opportunities through down payment assistance programs. We have the Nevada Grant Program. You know, they have all these different programs out there, too, that help you with down payment. So maybe there's not so much risk involved by just taking that plunge.
You know, I actually had a client that we're going through a transaction, and his purchase price was actually at $280,000 before the election, and he was actually quoted at I think it was at 4.25%, but he didn't lock in his rate. So what happened was after the election, it jumped up to 4%, and it jumped up at 5%.
5%,
and his payment went up $80 more. So and is that really a big deal, though?
Yeah, let's talk about that. Okay, that's something that we need to talk about, I think, as far as why people and what they should take from these rates a little bit. And, you know, if you're out there and I think everybody's kind of looked at the idea of maybe refinancing their home loan. Is it a good time? Well, I don't think anybody's going to push forward and say, yeah, it's a great time, because if you think about it, if rates haven't changed within the last 3 years, how much are you really going to save?
Yeah.
So let's talk about where these things would come into play from this point. Okay, now rates right now, you probably won't save that much. If your rate's at 4.25 and it's 4% right now, and it was 4.25,
it's not even worth it.
No, it's a quarter of a point difference, and it's not even a savings really. So let's take a look at it. Why should I refinance now? Well, if you're a homeowner, let me say this: $5.4 billion in potential mortgage savings was used to pay off debt this over recent years. You have one of the things you want to look at is if you're going to increase, or you're going to, not increase, but decrease your interest rate, your current interest rate by at least 1%, it makes sense to do this. Okay. If you're not doing that, obviously I wouldn't do that. I would look at other factors. The other factors are maybe removing mortgage insurance.
You're absolutely right. I actually just did that from $11.50 down to $9.30 from FHA to conventional because I had that equity, but my interest rate was still the same, but it made sense. You know how much it cost me?
Yeah.
I got $1,200 back at the close of escrow.
When did you Wait a second.
Oh,
wait a second. You refinanced and didn't use me as your lender?
Did I just say that?
Are you serious right now?
That was my wife.
Did you just look at me in the eyes and just tell me that you refinanced your home and you didn't use me?
Hey, moving on to refinancing.
Let's talk about the term. If you go from, let's say 30 years down to 15 years,
yeah,
right? Or even down to 20 years. Now, everybody out there is fixated on rate. They're fixated on how much am I going to save on my rate? Where are rates at? Rate. Guess what? That's not the most important thing to me.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you, I'm going to flip this script here. I'm going to tell you a different, I'm going to tell you a different side. You go from 30 to 15. Let's say you're looking at your interest and you stay in a property for that long period of time. Even if you stayed in it for 7 years, you potentially could be saving hundreds of thousands of dollars in interest. That's a big deal.
Big deal.
That is a big deal because the interest that you're paying on right now, that doesn't go to you. Most of the loans that you take on, the majority of the loans up front, you're paying
for the first 20 years.
90% of what you're paying, 80% is going towards interest. Do you want to pay that? So if you could counter, I looked and I quoted somebody one time at a $260,000 refinance.
Yeah.
They went from 28 years, they already paid 2 years into it, down to 15. They were upwards about $237,000 is what they saved.
Wow.
That's a lot of money. Now, is that important? Absolutely. When you look at rate should be just one considering factor. Okay? When you're out there looking and saying, well, what lender should I use? You also have to look at service. You have to look at what are the fees that the company's charging. You have to look at all these things because I'm going to tell you something out there, folks. Rates are important. Absolutely. That's the first thing that comes out of everybody's mouth, right? But they also look at if you have low fees. Let me give you an example. If you come into it and you're paying $3,800 and I'm charging $1,299, you're saving money. You're saving a lot of money there, right? So if you're looking at that reason of, well, is it rate or is it not? Let's say if you're giving the same rate, well, obviously you're saving money with me. But let's say even if you get an eighth of a point higher, let's say it's $30. How many times are you going to pay $30 before you exceed that $2,000 that they charged extra to do that loan? There's always ways to look at it, just like on down payment assistance. Everybody's like, you can get upwards to $20,000 in down payment assistance through the grant program, right? Mm-hmm. You look at that and you say, well, geez, what am I getting for that? Well, there's always something to it. You take on a higher rate. It's always about a half a point higher.
And it really comes down to your current situation, where you're looking to be from the next 5 to 10 years, and what your current financial situation is. But then from there, the lender is going to give you the options, and that's where you kind of lay down the landscape and you can piece it together.
The thing about the $20,000, though, what people don't understand is that if you got $20,000 for down payment and you use all of it, right? Let's just say you use all of it, okay? Your difference in payment on that half a point could be upwards to $40, $50, $60. Will you ever see the difference in payment of paying that $60? Would it ever hit the $20,000? No.
Because you probably won't live there that long.
Because you probably won't stay there.
Exactly. Then you take advantage of the situation.
That's free money.
Yes.
Because if you refinance in 6 months, which a lot of people do, or you wait and refinance in a year, even if you refinance, there's two things that could come of it. One of it is that's free money because you don't have to pay it back. The second thing is that if you refinance, guess what? You refinance in a conventional loan, there's a potential down the road you're going to remove your mortgage insurance once you hit 20% equity.
And you can rent it out.
So there's a lot of factors when you talk about interest rates, okay? There's a lot of factors when you talk about, is it time to refinance? Well, if I'm going to refinance my loan, maybe I got debt. Maybe I have student loans. I've seen people this last week, I had 4 student loans that were trade lines on a person's on their credit report.
Yeah.
They're doing a refinance. They have tons of equity in their property. They're paying all those off, and they're putting themselves in a better position. The interest rates that they're charging on those student loans is still higher than what your mortgage is, the mortgage interest rate that you'll be paying. I'm helping people on a cash-out refinance. That's where I see this going. People are still going to look at the idea of doing a cash-out refinance because equity and appreciation is still there.
So are you seeing more cash out refinancing or just literally?
I see that's where it's going. That's where I'm starting to see. I don't see any rate and term refinances coming in too much at all.
Yeah.
There's just not enough savings. You got people that have been in these rates for 3, 4, 5 years. They're not going to see a difference at this point.
Do you think we're setting ourselves up for failure again? Because, if they're cashing on out.
Well, let me say this. If you're saying, am I putting myself in a better position by removing debt and canceling debt, paying off a car payment, paying off student loans? Yes, I think that's better.
But you have to understand, majority of the population is living paycheck to paycheck. And what do they do? Once they pay that off, my concern is they go back out and get more credit cards.
Well, they could. But let me say this. I think consumers are smart now. They're getting smarter. Yeah. They got the content. They're getting this show. They got all these things going on. You got $100,000 of debt. And let's say that you got all these student loans, like I said, and everything, but yet your rate on it is 7 or 8%, and then you refinance your home, and now instead of you having $100,000 equity, now it's a $200,000 mortgage. Well, if you're paying a rate at 4%, you're still saving money, and you're putting yourself in a better position to help yourself down the road, especially while rates are still low in the 4 and really they're still historic low. 4% should be at like 8%. So you're still in a good position. It's just something to be aware of. Is it time to refinance or is it a good time? Depends on your situation. If you have a lot of debt, you have equity in your home, I'm here to talk with you. I want to talk with you outside of the show. We could do a cash out refinance, pay off all your debt, put yourself in a lower interest rate. My number outside, 781-6682. You can call us outside studio and schedule a consultation.
Man, this show is hot.
Let's go over this. Let's talk about your housing market. What do you got for me?
The housing market, we're jumping into it really quickly for single-family residents. Last week, we actually sold 528 homes. The average list price last week was actually $245,000. The median price right now is at $240,000 at $130 a square feet with an average days on the market of 24 days. What this is saying, if we take a look from the previous weeks, we're actually still moving housing. And if we take a look as far as supply and demand, we went from 3.5 of supply now to 3.3%.
Wow.
So that means homes are still moving quick.
They're still moving quick. And I don't think they're going to stop.
I don't think so either.
I don't either. I'm worried about if rates go up, the appreciation is going to keep going up, and then it's going to put people on the sidelines even more.
And remember, the median price medium household income at $51,000. Remember, we haven't really superseded that by 5 times yet. But once we start meeting that by 5 times, we could be running into some problems here. Yeah. Moving on to townhomes. Townhomes, we actually sold about 42 townhomes last week. The medium list price at that time was $167,000. Now it's actually selling for $164,000. Would you actually pay $164,000 for a townhome? That's a lot of money.
Depends on my return. I would only buy that if I was going to rent it out, I think, for me.
But the problem here is you also have to take a look. What is the average HOA? Is $150 a month.
That's always a big deal. Condos and townhomes. What is the HOA payment? Don't act like you're going to come into it and you're just going to get a base, pay or amount that you owe as far as your mortgage. You have to put in consideration $160 average HOA payment that comes on, right?
You're absolutely right. Now, here's the thing. What I've noticed with condos, a lot of investors are still buying condos, and the average condos right now are selling at $100,000 with an average of 25 days on the market. But here's the thing. These things are actually renting out like hotcakes. You're renting out about like 400 units every single month. Now, the supply market for the rental market from 1.8% down to 1.6. So we don't have that much supply as far as rental properties. So what that tells you is there is still a lot of people moving out here to Las Vegas. And I believe it's about 4,500 people moving to Las Vegas.
It's thriving.
It's thriving.
It's hot still.
Because of the economy.
Well, the economy's doing well. And I can tell you right now, we're not here to be, like I said, a bearer of bad news. We hit it from both angles. We're doing well, but don't just pay attention to the only good parts because it's out there and you see what's going on. Look at the potential of things that could happen. Rates are going up now. All these things is happening.
Well, that's why we have to take a look at our city. We're a brand new city throughout all the other states in the U.S. Now, if we take a look at California, like we talked about, they're almost about to file for bankruptcy. If we take a look, majority of these people from California, this article tells you right here, where are they moving to?
Las Vegas. And you know what they're doing? They're selling their homes there, putting large down payments here, and buying extravagant homes. Extravagant. I mean, some people are coming here and they're buying $400,000, $500,000, $600,000 homes, putting down hundreds to $200,000 just to get into a home here. I'm gonna tell you something. I get this all the time. They're always saying, "Where's the best place to move? Where's the best place to go?" And then they tell me this. Guess what? The taxes that I pay are the same as the mortgages that some people are paying here.
That's crazy.
That's amazing to me. That's East Coast. That's West Coast. Take a look at Vegas. Vegas has got a great market.
I have another article that I found very fascinating according to CoreLogic. Home ownership by age. Up to the age of 35 actually dropped 1.6%. From the ages of 35 to 44, it actually dropped by 2.7%. From the age of 45 to 54, dropped by 2.2%. And the age of 55 to 64 dropped by 1.3%. And the age of 65 and up dropped by 2.2%.
Couple questions. Is people out there still getting seller contribution? I know veterans still want to get that. Is it out there where sellers are willing to do it in this market?
And you know what? That's a very good question. With the VA, we still can pull that off, but it really depends on the price of the home. If we're at 240 and below, you still can get it, but as we go down to the lower on the totem pole, around the 170, 160, it's very hard. But as far as for closing ratios, this is what I find very fascinating. Cash buyers up by actually 2%, so we're up 21%. Conventional buyers actually dropped by 5%. We were sitting at 42%. Now we're sitting at 37%.
Right.
So now we're getting a little bit more cash buyers. Also, what's taken away from the conventional from last week is actually FHA buyers are actually up by 2%, and VA buyers are up by 1%.
So there's still people out there buying.
Yes, a lot of people are still buying and a lot of financing buying. Remember, what is that? 80% of the market right now are still finance buyers.
Let's talk about financing. Let's talk about rates, kind of where it trended this week. So hopefully you guys got some good information on the housing market. Freddie Mac's primary mortgage market survey showed a 37% or 37 basis point increase jump. The average week-over-week interest rate right now is 3.95%. Mortgage loans application volume decreased. Obviously, that's contributing to rates. Refinances decreased 11%. Adjusted purchase index decreased 6%. You see all this happening. Now, don't just blame it on rate. Let's blame it also on the economy. Let's blame it also on the fact that the presidential election just happened, and we're hitting our slow part. Also, mortgage bonds finished the week sharply lower, which really caused the rates to surge higher. Market sentiment, we talked about this last week, believes the economy will expand and cause inflation to rise through deficient spending and Trump rolling back regulations enacted under Obama. So we talked about this last week, and now this news is coming out again. Retail sales rose 0.8% versus the expected 0.6%. So the dollar did strengthen when interest rates rose because foreign traders sold local currencies to purchase the dollar in a chase for yield format. I want to say this. Going through the week, okay, everything looked fine. Thursday, Friday, I seen red, and I said, uh-oh, alert to lock. We lost another pricing this week. We've probably lost about 3/8 of a discount point or 3/8 of a point, if you want to call it, on mortgage interest rates. We finished this week about a quarter of a point higher. So that's big. That's a big deal.
So
red Thursday, Friday. This ended terribly. Rates were terrible at the end of the week.
So what do you think the direction is going from here on out?
Like I said, I think rates are going to keep going up, and I don't see it happening where we're going to start going the other direction. Now, I'm telling you, hopefully we kind of stagnate a little bit. I think a lot of the news and everything out there saying that the Fed funds rate's going to raise here in December. 95% of people out there are talking about it. You know what? It's something to look at because you know what? It does affect me, obviously, with my business, but it affects everybody. If they raise the Fed's funds rate, then they raise the mortgage interest rates. They're going to raise rates on everything else, and guess what? Inflation's behind it. You have to keep notice of that. Let's talk about one other thing before we leave here. So we talked a lot about rates. Let's talk about Italy. They're asking for a bailout.
That's correct.
What's up with that?
Well, apparently they're coming due, and they cannot pay their stocks and their bonds, and now they're asking for a bailout. But now the thing about it is, who's going to actually bail them out? They're taxpayers.
Absolutely.
But now here's the thing. They're actually connected to the IMF, and this is where other countries are starting to see what's going on. And now what's probably going to happen is we're going to be ending up in one currency, which is a digital
let's
currency.
Talk about one thing about this. So I want everybody to understand, 2008, 2011 we're all connected when it comes to inflation, when it comes to a global economy, right? So if you have problems like that, typically what happens is
It affects us.
it affects everybody because the government and all the governments let it come in domestically here, and us as domestically, or let's say our state or our cities, are the ones that pay for the difference of what the losses are. You have to pay attention to that. It's passed to the consumer every time. Every time.
And it's right through your taxes, and you don't even know it. And remember, you're paying 3 months out of the year actually towards taxes, believe it or not.
Well, everybody knows that. That's why
that's
everybody's
crazy.
wanting to cut taxes. They're wanting to basically keep spending going on with government spending. These things will negatively affect us if they do this.
The problem is that we got too much debt.
We do. So all these things contribute to rates. They all contribute to making your decisions in life. We look at it from the eyes of consumers. Hey, how does this affect you? Well, your purchasing power, your expenditures on a monthly basis are going up. Your purchasing power is going down. Rates are going up. Your payments going up. Appreciation's going up. You got to stay tuned with this show. This is Dan French with the Market Snapshot. We'll be back here from 1 to 2 p.m. every Saturday. From here on out, we look forward to hearing from you, and we'll talk to you then.
Peace.